Hi guys, it's Mrs. Rigdon reporting to you live from my farm. I'm trying to figure out other ways to connect with you guys other than just putting up a bunch of slides and assignments on Google Classroom. So here is what we're going to do for this assignment. We are going to pull up our Google Slides CPH that we have been working on over the past year. I believe you should have around 30 plants right now. So we're going to add 10 more to make that 40. So for this next assignment that I'll put up on Google Classroom, you're going to watch this video. You're going to make a list of every plant that I go over. So we're going to do 10 today. And then you're going to go ahead and pull up that Google slide and add those 10. I already have access, so I'll be able to grade them and check your work. But remember, you need to add your slides that have information, and then you need to make sure to add 3 photos of characteristics, whether it's needles or flowers or the leaves or the bark of the tree, whatever it is. But we're gonna do it this way, and then that way you get some FaceTime with me today. Okay, so let's start with this first one. I kind of did this one already on Instagram in my story, but it already went away. So you guys can see there's this tree here. It's a good over 100 foot tall, so I have a bunch of them on my property. This is called a Norway Spruce. So we've talked about the Colorado Spruce quite a few times, but the Norway Spruce is a conifer, so it's coniferous, it's evergreen, and it bears cones. So you're gonna see here are needles. They're actually round if you twirl them in your fingers, okay? And the biggest distinguishing factor of the Norway spruce is that the limbs dangle down. So can you guys kind of see that? Because the next one I'm going to show you is the Colorado spruce, and you'll see the major difference. So these limbs dangle down, and that really is the one thing during the CPH exam in October that you guys will take that I say, please make sure to pick up the specimen that they give you and see if those needles kind of hang downward. So this is a Norway spruce. That's the next one that you're adding to your CPH Google slide. Okay, and look at the bark here. So it's not a smooth bark, kind of almost has like square ridges going all the way up it. And again, these were planted pretty close to my house, but this is an addition. So again, they top these off because of how big they get for safety features. All right, so let's keep walking. This is the farm. There's the coop. All right, here is our Colorado spruce. So hopefully you guys can already see from far back the shape of the tree. It almost is like more of a triangle. It's not nearly as tall. This one's not as old as the other tree, but again, if you look at these needles, so coniferous, evergreen, cone bearing, and the needles you can twist in your fingers, okay, and they bear cones. But the thing here is, if you look at the shape, if you go under this tree, the limbs kind of stick straight out. They don't really dangle down. They kind of support their own weight. So that is a big difference. If you get the Colorado blue spruce, that's just a species of plant that has a blue tint to it. So, and then if we look at the bark here, you can see from when we did some limbing up a couple years ago, it does have sap in it that's still on the bark of the tree. But again, you've got not smooth bark. It's got these square ridge patterns. So very much like the Norway spruce. So both are spruces. All right, this next one is pretty exciting. Okay, so far we have Norway spruce, Colorado spruce, and now let's move on to a flowering shrub. So this one is in the Viburnum family. This happens to be a Korean Spice Viburnum. Okay, viburnums tend to have these leaves that are somewhat serrated. Okay, they are simple, and they actually have a very velvety texture to them. So You can see on the back here, it really does have a soft velvet to it. I don't know if you guys remember like the velour jumpsuits that were big in the 2000s. You guys were just born. But anyway, if you've ever touched like velour clothing, that's kind of the feel that it has. Again, like a velvet. And then you'll see, this is my favorite part of the Korean Spice Viburnum. On the terminal end of the stem here, you've got your buds. They're pink. They're always pink. And they are going to open up into these really fragrant flowers here. This whole thing is going to turn pink. It's going to have a lot of pollen. So if you're someone that doesn't do well with pollen, this probably isn't the best plant to put close to your house. Maybe put it further out. But it's really, really pretty. Let's see, some other things that you can see about the Korean Spice Viburnum is we have got opposite leaves. So see opposite. Okay, so everything is opposite here. But again, this is a shrub, so it's not a tree. The first two are trees. Here is a shrub. Oh, there's my dog Winston. Okay, moving on. Let's go to our flowering dogwood. And this is one that I am going to actually post again later. Some dogwoods have actually started to flower, but mine is a little bit of a late bloomer. And unfortunately, right now with the dogwood species, not kusas, but flowering dogwoods, there is a blight that is moving through from Maine all the way down the East Coast, and it's kind of taking these trees out. So it's something that we need to start spraying for if you have a dogwood. But here's your main, let me see if I'm tall enough. Your main identifying factor. Okay, so the stems reach upward. So can you guys see how if I'm holding this flat, they're reaching upward. And oh, this is actually going to start blooming in the next week. And here are, if I can get close enough without it being silly blurry. Let me go this way with it. There we go. Okay, so here's how I tell you guys to remember it. They look like little Hershey Kisses, okay? Usually they're gray. These are starting to open up, so they have this greenish pink tint to it. And the flower that's going to come out of this is going to be white, and they have 4 petals. So again, the branches kind of reach upward. They don't lay flat, and the buds have little Hershey Kisses on the end. So this is your flowering dogwood. And again, when you go to make your Google slide, try to find a picture of it flowering so that you have that as an identifying characteristic. The trunk does not have one main trunk. It's got many coming off the bottom. So that's typical for a flowering dogwood. And then again, the bark here is a square pattern. They're a lot smaller than the other trees that I showed you before. This is just some fungus, mold, and stuff. It's not hurting the tree, but yeah, multiple branching coming off the trunk, which is normal. You guys will see that in crepe myrtles I've talked about. Some other things. There's Margaret. Okay, so that is the 4th one. So we have Norway spruce, Colorado spruce, Korean Spice Viburnum, and you have a flowering dogwood. All right. Here is another one that I have already talked about in my Instagram. But again, I want to make sure that everyone is getting the content that I'm putting out there. I don't know how many of you got that, but here it is again for you. So this is number 5. Here is a lilac shrub. So I've got 3 of these on my property. I believe this one is going to be purple. But it's a shrub, not a tree. Many branching coming off the bottom, and here are your leaves. I'm getting excited about this because this one is going to bloom here early April. So it's really building up its energy right now. It's sending everything to its leaves and to its buds, and it's going to flower here. And this one threw us off last year at the CPH. It threw me off. I couldn't identify it. And the thing was that it had already bloomed, And so they were giving us a specimen that had already passed. So basically we had big leaves like this, and then at the end of it, I'll try to zoom in here. Do you guys see this? This is a last year's flower tip. So all these tiny little stems, that's what had flowers on it, and that's all they gave us. So they gave us a stem with the leaves of the lilac on it, and then this terminal end of a bud that had already flowered. So it completely threw me off. If I would have been thinking smart, I would have tried to think about, okay, what plant is an early spring plant that's already flowered, that has that type of budding on the end, and I just wasn't thinking. It just stumped me, and so now I know to talk you guys through that a little bit more, so that you know what to look for, because you're not always going to have the buds. So here you go. Here is the beautiful buds that are going to open up here in about 2 weeks to some awesome, very fragrant flowers. They're one of my favorite. I love coming out here and taking cuttings off of all the lilacs. I have 2 purple and a white one, and putting them in on my dining room table. But there is your lilac, and you can almost see if we're looking at clusters. So if you're looking at leaves in a sort of way of trying to identify, this is a simple leaf. They are smooth, not serrated. Okay, so you guys see that, and again, I'm trying my best here with this. Look at the veins in it. These leaves are going to grow much bigger. Again, they're tiny right now, but they're almost coming off in clumps of leaves, and then on those clumps they are opposite, so they are not adjacent. Okay, so again, very simple green leaves, soft, not velvety, very smooth, and then like I said, you'll get those buds on the end. So I'm going to pause right there. We're going to come around to the front of my house, and I'll give you a couple more specimens.